Hello everyone, my name is Brandon.
And my name is Mark. So today, what are we going to do?
Today we're going to be presenting about Chinese ethnic footprints and development of Peranakan food in Bandung City. Chinese ethnic first arrived in Indonesia through the Cheng Ho expedition around 1405 until 1430 and arrived at Bandung City in the end of 19th century and the beginning of 20th century with a motive to trade and fulfill their needs while sharing their culture throughout the city. The purpose of this research is to find out the Chinese ethnic footprints and development of Peranakan food in Bandung City.
So, the methodology research that we use is something we call descriptive qualitative research method. We're aiming to find out the history, the culture, and the arrival of the Chinese ethnic in Bandung City. We gather information gradually. The first step is we gather information from the museum with something we call individual observation. The second step is we listen explanations from the expert. And lastly, we interview the experts for more detail.
As I said earlier, the arrival of Chinese ethnic in Bandung City was occurred at the end of 19th century and the beginning of 20th century. From our discipline data, we find out that the arrival was accompanied with the motives to carry out trade resulting from the China's chaotic domestic situation at the time. Well, everything was doing great until the colonialists entered the Nusantara, including Bandung City. Chinese people living in Nusantara had to face colonialism from foreign countries, including the Netherlands. When the Dutch arrived in Indonesia and Bandung City, they made a discrimination policy, which consists of that separated the Chinese ethnic, indigenous, and Western into different places. Well, this discrimination made a lot of changes in society. The relationship between the Chinese ethnic and indigenous, of course, become broken because of this policy. This discrimination was the beginning of the existence of Chinatowns in Bandung City. When Indonesia became independent, this discrimination was still ongoing until it reached its peak in 1998, where there was a riot caused by the Asian financial crisis. People who experienced the social inequality began to riot, mostly aimed to Chinese ethnic. Residents do not accept Chinese ethnic dominating their economic markets. Well, as time passes by, the residents create an anti-Chinese movement that make the Chinese ethnic desperate on living in Jakarta, Medan, and Solo. So they fled to Bandung City and began a new life there.
While the Chinese ethnic decided to stay in Bandung City, they created something we call Peranakan food. Peranakan food is a cuisine or a dish that is created from two different recipes. We are talking about Indonesia and Chinese. Now, I'm going to tell you some of the examples of what Peranakan food is. Now I'm going to talk about the example of Peranakan food. The first is rochung or bakcang. Rochung or bakcang is chungzi, but with Indonesian style. It consists sticky rice with meat fillings such as chicken, beef, and pork. The sticky rice is from China, while the fillings such as coconut milk, the meat, turmeric are from Indonesia. The next dish is lontong cap gome or rice cake cap gome. It's basically rice cake served with chicken opor, shredded beef, chili sauce, boiled eggs, and more. So, the rice cake of this dish is from China, while the herbs, the seasonings like egg, shredded meat are from Indonesia. Bakcang and lontong cap gome are two examples of Peranakan food. Besides these two, there are a lot more in Bandung City. These dishes have their own history of their existence. In this research, we have discovered a lot about the Chinese footprints and their culture in Bandung City, from the past to present. First time, they arrived in Indonesia through the Cheng Ho expedition. Then they arrived at Java gradually. Soon, in the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, they arrived at Bandung with a motive to trade. Peranakan food is basically what happened if two cultures, such as cuisine, are fused into one cuisine, and later on, this recipe of the cuisine will be passed down from one generation to another generation. Now, in the future, we hope to be able to research deeply on something we call Japanese culture, but their religion called Gohonzon in Jakarta City. In progress for making our research, we have gathered and seen some of the references and sources. These are the sources that we use.
That's all from us. I'm Brandon.
And I'm Mark.
Thank you. 再见.